All right, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Matt. Most of you guys do. We're going to be talking about this topic tonight because it's holiday season, and holidays mean everybody gets really relaxed and nice and peaceful, right? And so what I see with most of this is that stress levels go up, risk of heart issues goes up, risk of all kinds of mortality goes up on this time of year, and it's stressful. It's family in town, it's presents to buy, it's organizations that you're part of that you have to go to their meetings or their events. And then also it's just the alcohol, the food, and the other things that we put in our body that aren't so good. So we're going to talk about stress in general. Dr. Maggie already covered a little bit about it. We're going to talk about what it is, okay? And I'm going to talk about the word stress because I think it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and we need to have some reason or some meaning behind it because I think we misuse that word. I'm going to talk about some different words we should be using instead and why they're important. Talk about the types of stress. Trainable versus untrainable load. And then we're going to talk about the good stuff. What is resilience? Okay, how to build better resilience, why the nervous system matters in this conversation, and then how to identify if you've got poor resilience, and then ultimately what to do about it. Cool? Cool. All right. How many of you guys have been to one of these workshops, by the way? Okay, good. So you guys already know I'm not going to go on and on forever tonight. I will leave it up for you guys. You guys got questions. I will make sure we got time for that. I'm not going to go on for more than 30 minutes tonight. So you guys get out of here and get on your way. But I'm going to hopefully give you guys some good things to talk about. All right, first off, what is stress? If I caught you on the street with a microphone and a camera and I said, hey, I'm filming a TikTok video, what is stress? What would your answer be? Any ideas? You don't have to participate, by the way. No pressure. If you do, it makes it a little more fun, though. What do you got, Jan?
Feeling anxious.
Feeling anxious, yes, agreed. Any others?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, okay. Yep.
Like at a very basic level, tension.
Okay, good. Any other ideas? You're all right. No one's wrong there. Okay, so we're going to talk about it. I'm going to go into this first. So what I heard from you guys was the effects, okay, and all important things. But stress in its purest form is a response in your body. And it's a response that you've had ingrained in your body for thousands and thousands of years. First thing that happens is blood pressure spikes. Heart rate speeds up. Blood flow gets away from your middle body and goes out to the extremities, your arms, your legs. Your muscles on the back of your shoulders tighten down, like Liz had mentioned. That all happens for one reason, to get you away from the tiger that's chasing you, which is important, except when you live in the Denver Tech Center area, there aren't a lot of tigers running around here anymore. So it's less important, right? But here's the deal. 10,000 years ago, we had this response. And fast forward to the present day, we still have it, which is kind of fascinating. The software hasn't changed. We haven't updated. Yet everything around you has. In the past 100 years, literally, our entire environment is completely different. And our nervous systems are still operating on this outdated software, which is a difficult challenge for it because this stress response was only supposed to last 10 to 15 minutes. Either you escaped the tiger or the tiger ate you. One way or the other, it was coming to an end. But nowadays, we could last with this response for 10 days or 10 weeks even. You know, it can go on and on and on. We live so much more in the future and in the past. We have the ability to do that nowadays than in any time of history. We're not constantly worried about where our food's coming from or what's chasing us. So we have more time to focus on that. But that drives this stress response and causes more and more problems. All right. So I asked you guys what stress was, and I heard a lot of different types of stress. And again, that word stress, we're going to change that here in a second. So I'm using the wording now because it makes sense to most people, but there's 3 types of it. Now, if you've been listening to me at all when you're on my table, you might have heard me say this, so no pressure, but you guys should have heard me say this by now. What are the 3 types of stress? Does anybody have any ideas?
Physical.
Okay, that is one. Good answer. Physical. Yeah, you guys, I was going to say, if you didn't throw that one out there, you all named it already. That's emotional stress. That's where everybody's head goes when I say the word stress, by the way. Okay, and there's a third one. This is the one that most people miss. No? Get an A+ today. Come on, Liz.
Basically like your health, your well-being, your medical.
Yeah, it's internal. We call it chemical stress. Okay, so let's talk about each of these. Emotional stress, that's the anxiety. That's the frustration, that's the overwhelm. I'd even throw up lack of sleep in there because it affects the emotional so much. But then there's chemical stress. What's chemical stress? Any ideas? This is important because, majority of people are just concerned about this. This is wrecking the bodies just as much. Yeah, I did a workshop 2 months ago on toxicities and deficiencies. Was anybody in there? Okay, good. All we talked about in that room was chemical stress. Any toxicity is a chemical stress. Food can be a chemical stress, bad food, processed foods. Alcohol, drinks, sugary drinks, that can be a chemical stress. Those are like the ones that most people are like aware of, right? Then we got the more sinister stuff, like the soap you're putting on your skin every day, and the lotion, and the cosmetics, and all those products that we don't want to pretend, we want to pretend like they're just okay for our body, but there's a lot of junk in those too, formaldehyde and other things like that. And then we talk about the cleaners in our house, right? And the water that we have. These are all chemical stresses. And our goal is not to be perfect, because Lord knows I'm not. But at the end of the day, we want to be a little more aware of it and hopefully taking some steps to reduce some of that exposure. That's chemical stress. And again, that picks up during the holiday season, doesn't it? With all the food and events we go to. And then the physical stress. Physical stress is sitting like you guys are for extended periods of time, not just for 20 minutes. This is not a bad position for a period of time. It's just that that's all a lot of people do. We just sit here in this position. We never break it. And then there's the constant movement, like too much movement. I take care of some bartenders. The bartenders are always on their feet, so they're not doing this, but it's still a problem because they're constantly in the same position or they're looking down. These repetitious movements or these improper positions we're in all the time, it's tough. And if you're taller like me, it's even harder because every conversation I have with you guys is here. Okay? If I'm not looking at you on the table, I'm looking at you here. So I'm constantly having to address these things. We all do. All right. So I talked about stress, but I think that's a misleading word because like I just mentioned, stress isn't any of those so much as it's the response in your body. There's something that's triggering the response. And it's not stress like we all call it. It's load or strain. Your body has a certain amount of resilience. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But load is what wears it down. And there's two types of load. There's the load that you can't do anything about. We call that untrainable load. And then there's the stuff that you can. We call it trainable. So when I say trainable load, what I'm talking about is some of those things we just mentioned, like the food you're eating. That's load, but it's trainable. You can teach yourself not to eat bad food. Right? You can train yourself. Untrainable load is stuff like politics or the economy or things that you don't have so much control of. Or a person who calls you on the phone and shares some really bad news with you or is really mean to you. That's a strain on your system, but it's not something you had control over. All right? So we have to delineate the two. But both of those things factor in and cause the stress response. I find in our practice, most people have a certain amount of load they can withstand before they have a stress response. And people are different. Like I can have somebody, I had a gentleman in here today, his mom just passed away yesterday. He had no relationship with her for the past 13 years though. And so he told me it might change, but right now he was feeling very little. Less load, that load isn't affecting him as significantly. Say someone who comes in and tells me, I had another woman in here today, her daughter just had a miscarriage. Way more stress with her, way more stress response engaged. Her spine was a complete mess today. Okay, these are different types of instances, different types of people, but what it goes to show you is you might have a stressful or a straining day, but doesn't mean the stress response has been activated, okay? So that's the trainable and untrainable load. Now let's talk about resilience, because this is what matters to you guys. Resilience is the ability to adapt and recover from adversity, stress, or trauma. The capacity to adapt to the challenging experiences in life. This bucket is the analogy. This bucket can be bigger or smaller depending on the person. And the loads are the water or the fluid that are filling this bucket up. And so think about yourselves at this point in time, how you feel from I'm on edge all the time, or I feel pretty easy, low key. It really depends on how much this bucket's filled up at the moment. And again, some of that's outside of you, you have no control over, death in the family, crazy world we live in, and some of it is completely under your control. Maybe you haven't been working out a lot, maybe you haven't been sleeping very well, maybe you've been eating terribly. Okay? Those are the loads that are building this up or bringing it down. But resilience is what matters. And when we talk about resilience, before I get into this slide, I think this is really important to note. When people talk about, for example, getting sick this time of year, it's not a flu season. There's no such thing. They market it really well. They made you believe that's the case, but it's not like the flu just decided to pop up one day. That's not how it works. You're not exposed to sunlight right now. You're not getting it. You guys are dressed up in warmer clothes. It's been nice around here, but you're not going and sunbathing naked for 30 minutes every day, right? And if you are, it's hard to find space for that, right? Okay, but here's the funny thing about that. You're really designed, your body is designed to be doing stuff like that. You've got receptors all over your body. It's not just the top of your head like me where I got no hair, or your arms. Those are good places to get vitamin D too, but you're supposed to be getting it everywhere. And so why I bring that up is as vitamin D exposure goes down, your immune system goes with it, which makes you more vulnerable. Your resilience goes down. Okay, and it makes you more likely to get sick, whether it's the flu, common cold, COVID, whatever. That's your immune system dropping. The conversation, and that's just one example, but the conversation really needs to be around what kind of resilience do we have right now? If your body is not resilient, it's not time to take a trip, because that's where people get sick, isn't it? They're losing their resilience. They're not getting a lot of sleep. They're traveling time zones, screwing up their hormones and their nervous system balance, and then they wonder why they come back and they're wrecked. They ate junk, they drank, and they come back and they're not feeling so good. It's because their resilience dropped and everything was able to invade, okay? It's the conversation around, are we taking all of our military and sending them to other countries and allowing all the invaders to move in? Or are we keeping our military here and protecting the home? That's the conversation we're having right now around resilience, okay? So how you build this. Number one is you start to reduce your toxicity, your exposure to them. And we talked a little bit about chemical stress. It's not the only toxicity you can get involved in, okay? Just think about the humans you're involved in. I'm sure some personalities are a little more toxic than others, right? That's a strain. Same thing goes for movement. We can have a movement toxicity. There is such a thing as doing too much movement. I have people in my office that I have to stop from doing so much. It's a small percentage, but I do have people versus trying to push and pull them to do more. Okay? And we can also do things improperly. Think about in the wintertime when we're outside shoveling snow. How many people are bending with their hips, leveraging their body properly versus just trying to get the job done and get out of the cold? Okay, that's a movement toxicity. It can create a lot of problems for our body. Then we got the deficiencies. Okay, the deficiencies is another important thing. And I'm going to talk about the big ones that we can get in trouble with. But deficiencies is just the things we're not doing enough of. And maybe it is movement on the other side of the coin. And maybe it is not enough food, not enough good, clean, healthy food, living food, one ingredient foods. Maybe we're eating too much junk. Okay. And then we've got, lastly, the nervous system, okay? And I think the nervous system, as you guys are well aware, is the most important thing we should all be considering. No matter if you've got a problem or not, your nervous system's running everything, okay? When we talk about the nervous system, it's really the guiding light to anything we have conversation-wise around health. If they start with your heart or your lungs or your digestive system, those doctors are fine, but at the end of the day, we've got to also consider what is running all those organs and all those systems. And if we're ignoring the nervous system, we're missing a huge part of it. Here's an example. Do you guys know what the first system is that develops in your body when you're in utero, when you're inside mom? Your nervous system. And as that develops, it develops literally everything else. When you're the mom and you're developing a baby, what instruction manual do you have to read to create this baby? Any ideas? Did you have to read a book? No, you didn't. And did you have to think really hard that I better be doing this right? I better make sure this baby has 2 eyes, not 3? No, I came out right, right, Mom? That's my mom, by the way, back there. So you think about that, that's your nervous system. It's doing that the whole time. It's got this amazing innate intelligence ingrained in it. And we just ignore it, like it didn't happen or it doesn't matter. It's the most fundamental piece of the whole conversation, and no one considers it. So if your immune system's compromised, you took a long trip, you come back and you feel sick, yeah, your immune system's having a problem. But what's running the immune system? At the end of the day, what started it? Your nervous system did. So if we have an immune system problem, we likely also have what? A nervous system problem too. It doesn't mean you always have a nervous system problem, but we need to check it. We always need to look at it because it's the first thing in every conversation. When we do these tests in here, and most of you guys have seen this before for your own right, this test measures how much strain is on your nervous system at any point. If your nervous system is clear and healthy, chances are likely everything else in your body, it might not be perfect, but it's working at a much better level. And not every problem in your body, again, is a nervous system issue. But if your nervous system's a problem, I can almost assure you, you got health problems, okay? It's maybe not showing up today, but it doesn't have to. We don't have to feel anything to have a heart disease issue. We don't have to feel anything to have a cancer issue. What matters is how you function and how you perform, and that's what these kind of tests look at. If you've never had that nervous system evaluation, I would encourage you strongly to do that because the strength of your nervous system is directly correlated with everything else in your body. Okay, let's go to this piece because I think some of you guys are going to look at this and go, oh, okay. How do you identify poor resilience? There's a couple different pieces that I think we can start with, more like the superficial layer, like neck and shoulder tightness and general soreness and pain. Those are just basic pieces that our resilience is getting worn down a bit. But then we've got easily irritated, anxiety that's persistent about things that maybe not be important. You wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking about stuff. And that includes this poor sleep conversation, falling asleep or staying asleep. But if that continues long enough, then we start to see people being often sick and thyroid hormone imbalance. Why do those two things happen? When you're sick because the immune system's worn down. But what the nervous system does first to trigger the immune system is it talks to your adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands are like your battery packs. They get everybody up and ready to go. Let's go fight. We got an invader, it's time to get going. Your nervous system's what does that. But then you need the adrenal glands to say, okay, immune system, kick it up, it's time to go, it's game time. If the adrenal glands get worn out, we call them fatigued, then unfortunately, so does your immune system. It never comes to the fight. And our body is vulnerable. Like I said, it's like spreading the military out everywhere and no one's back home to protect homeland. Okay? Everybody gets to invade and cause trouble. If you guys remember COVID, the conversation was more about the immunosuppressed, okay, the immune compromised. It wasn't about the people that had healthy immune systems. And that's going to be the case for any kind of health complication ever, by the way. Doesn't matter what immune system problem we're talking about. Immune compromised people are always going to be more vulnerable because the immune system isn't there to fight like it's supposed to. That's the conversation we always need to think about is how strong are we? How much resilience are we building up? So if you're starting to notice that you're getting sick regularly, it's a symptom that the adrenal glands are fatiguing. Why do the adrenal glands fatigue? Because they're stressed. They're strained. They're not able to function the way they're supposed to. The reason they don't function the way they're supposed to is the same reason the thyroid starts to shut down. I see this a lot in women, but men, testosterone is the other problem. And it's the same cascade. So here's how this works. When you get stressed, you release one specific hormone. Do you guys know what that hormone's called?
Cortisol.
Bingo, cortisol. What is cortisol made of? You guys know? This is important because everybody's going to go, oh, cholesterol. Cholesterol. Cortisol is an important hormone. You need it. It's what helps you wake up in the morning. It's not like it's always bad. It isn't. It's important. But it's made by cholesterol. So all these conversations around high cholesterol is bad, maybe, but there's a lot of research showing the other way, that low cholesterol is even worse for you because of a couple different reasons. Now here's what happens when you use cortisol too much. You take all the cholesterol that's coming into your body and you use it up. What does cholesterol also make? Well, it makes thyroid hormone. It makes all your sex hormones. It makes all the fun stuff too. So what ends up happening is cortisol takes all of it. There's none left for anybody else. The thyroid doesn't have any cholesterol. Testosterone doesn't have any cholesterol. Estrogen, progesterone, all these other hormones down the way don't get it either, which causes a lot of imbalance in your body. And so what ends up happening is you go to the doctor, you do your blood work, and the doctor looks at you and goes, your thyroid's not working well. Well, so we got to do something about it. We got to give it thyroid hormone, artificially to prop it up, which is fine. I'm not against it, but the conversation is slanted. It's against the thyroid. The thyroid's the bad guy, right? It's not working well. It's stupid. It failed. The thyroid doesn't fail like that. It's not a very smart organ, I'll give it that, but it just gets direction from your nervous system. And if your nervous system can't give it enough cholesterol to make thyroid hormone, it's not going to work well. So what's the answer? Artificially prop it up with more thyroid hormone from a medication, or take the stressor out of the equation. My answer would be always, let's start there. Let's try to reduce the stress, our exposure to it. Let's get rid of whatever load is happening in our body so that our body can start to function better. The same thing goes for men who are sitting on the couch, who feel lazy, who don't feel like they have a lot of energy. It's not that they're broken. It's not that they have low testosterone naturally. They had it earlier in life. But unfortunately, it gets worse and worse over time because of all the stress and the strain on the body. Does that make sense? So the answer is find out what's stressing our body and reduce it, eliminate it. How do we do that? I'm going to leave you guys with 5 action steps, okay? 5 ways we can reduce load and improve resilience. For now, going into the holiday season, and hopefully for January, February, and March. I find that most people coming in here, January, are train wrecks, okay? And I mean that lovingly, but you get to November, December, and it's all the parties and all the food and all the other stuff. And then we go into January. The first 2 weeks, it's like they're in their cocoon. They're just like trying to sleep it off. And then come the third week of January, they start to emerge. They wake up. It's like the hibernation is over now, and they're trying to get back up to speed. But it takes some people April, May even, before they're really back up to where they need to be in terms of what we look at on our testing. And it could have been avoided by just starting to take steps now. So, first one. Movement. Now, if these start to look familiar to you, it's probably because I've spoken to you about them on the table. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all the same stuff. This is just the basic requirements for your body to be healthy. Movement is one of them. You don't need to go exercise at a high intensity level. In fact, I don't think I'd recommend that for majority of people. I think we need to be doing some sort of resistance training, some sort of strength-based movement, and then also going for some sort of a walk. Daily. I think we should be doing that regularly. If you don't have the ability to, or you're cold and it's rainy outside, then get a $100 walking pad and stick it in your house and walk on that. We need some sort of movement every day. We also need sleep. And not that we need to have 8 to 9 hours of sleep, but we need to have sleep where we wake up in the morning and we feel rested and like we're ready to take on the day versus fatigued, burnout, and exhausted. If you're feeling like that, there's one of two things going on. And it all comes back to that conversation I just had with you. It's either the adrenal glands are fatigued, the battery packs are broken down because there's too much strain on the system, and or thyroid or the sex hormones are off somewhere. There's an imbalance there. But it all comes back to how much load is going on in your body. Okay? How much strain have you placed on it? We need to pay attention to this piece too, especially this season of life or year. November, December, when all the processed pies and cookies are in your face. Doesn't mean don't have them, but I would encourage you to try to keep a barrier of about 80% of the time you're eating pretty clean, healthy. The other 20% of the time you have a little bit of fun, you go off track. But you're trying to toe that line. I don't want 60-40 or 50-50. 80-20 is a good balance. Okay? Have a little fun. Don't starve yourself with that. Be social, but also know that you're trying to get back to where you always live, which is in the healthy range. You can be like all the rest of America if you don't want to do that. Like that's what we're good at, is going off track there. Okay? The emotional component is important as well. Now, I'm not here to be the psychologist, but I do want to tell you what I see on my table. Majority of people coming in here, whether they're aware of it or not, when I talk to them about pain, most people's mindsets go to like a physical problem. That's not how I see it clinically. Okay? Most of the time, it's not a physical problem. It started as an emotional struggle, and then it started to develop and became more of a physical problem for them. But it usually originated in the emotional side of things. And that's not a woo-woo concept. Emotional stress causes the fight or flight response. Remember what we were talking about? You start to round forward. You literally adopt this posture to protect your vital organs. But over time, do that for a day, no big deal. Do that for a year or 10, it becomes a huge deal. So to try to avoid that, I think we need to start looking at ways to get fulfillment or to get our minds out of whatever we've been ruminating on. And then the last thing, you didn't think I'd forget a chance to tell you about the nervous system one more time, okay? I call it prime power. Power is what the nervous system does. It provides power for literally every cell and tissue in your body. You guys have billions of cells in your body right now. Your nervous system is the one that created every single one of them. And it's also getting rid of the ones that aren't working very well anymore and replacing them with newer ones that work better. As long as you're fulfilling each one of these requirements, those new cells coming in line are going to be better off than the ones beforehand. But if you're not doing any of this, if you're ignoring 2 or 3 of these, you're going to have cells and tissues that are going to be less functional than the ones prior, which is going to lead you down a slippery slope. You want to be healthier. Health doesn't return to you tomorrow. It doesn't. You lose it pretty quickly. It doesn't come back nearly as fast. But it does come back if you're consistently getting these requirements that I just listed here met every single day or at least every other day. Doing it regularly is how you get back to a place you need to be. Okay? So that's the action steps. Now I'm going to take questions here.